My name is Melissa Wheaton, and I am the CEO and founder of Tips Law LLC, where I primarily perform services such as estate planning and business law for entrepreneurs.
Hey, it's Kellen, and today on Diversified Game, man, I know it's a lot of ballers out there, making money online, on the grind, working from home, or wherever you are on your throne. I have some game for you. I have somebody who went to law school, passed the bar, created a business. And so estate planning and so much more she can help you with. Now, you might think this is Beyonce's sister, but she's a lawyer, and I'm not going to, divulge all the bags and all her connections. But Melissa Wheaton, welcome to Diversify Game. How you doing?
I'm well, Kellen. How are you doing?
Blessed by the best over here. Happy to have you on. We met at Sean Hoke King's, who's been a guest here, y'all. Talented Teen Club, great nonprofit. We met at the wine tasting, and I just had to get the story. And I just want to start with, you telling, how did you even, say, I want to do law? I know you said you have an interesting story that might be a little unique.
Yes, absolutely. Well, way back when I was a little one, I realized I wanted to be a lawyer from The Cosby Show. Claire Huxtable was my influencer at the time. It was just something about her. She was so intelligent, so beautiful. And when she would break out with, "Let the record show," and I was like, oh, I can be a lawyer. So I had that goal in mind, and I just didn't know what type of law I was going to practice, and I didn't know all the different areas. I just knew law school was the goal. So I attended undergrad at University of Florida, and I was trying to figure out my path, if I wanted to go the corporate route with law or criminal justice. Wasn't really sure. But when I got to law school and started taking a lot of the courses, I was pretty much focused on just being a general practitioner. So whatever opportunities present itself, that's where it would lead me. So I started off working for the state of Florida in Tallahassee. I was an assistant general counsel, I believe that was the title, for the Department of Financial Services. So that was more of the administrative law wing. And it was a great experience. And then shortly after that, I got married. And I had my son, and it's a work-life balance. And by that time, I had relocated to my hometown of Jacksonville. And so I had worked in private practice. I had also worked as a prosecutor. And then I just needed some work-life balance. And so I found an opportunity in my hometown working for a company, a Fortune 500 company, SX. And when I read the description, it was quasi-legal. It seemed like the best of both worlds. Although it was on the business side, there was some legal skills that were required, and it was for a labor relations role. So I applied, and the rest was history. I got the position, and I started working for that company. And I pretty much climbed the ladder for about 13 years. And eventually I was the director of arbitration, which essentially I managed the whole team that would arbitrate collective bargaining issues and contract disputes. And I thought I would retire there. I was like, okay, this is fine. I'm not lawyering, but I'm still using my JD somewhat, and I could just retire here and be comfortable. Well, sometimes, our plans don't exactly work out how we think they will. And another opportunity came knocking. I wasn't really looking, but the opportunity was one I just couldn't pass up. And it was for a labor relations senior role in South Florida. And so I looked into it. I thought about it because I'm not one who's just going to jump ship and change careers based on what I want to do. I just want to make sure that I'm in his will. And so essentially I got offered the job and I relocated to South Florida. I mean, I left everything I knew, went into a foreign land, and I began this company. And the gentleman who recruited me, he was just so dynamic, and I really enjoyed working with him. But unfortunately, I'm going to keep my words few. He wasn't with the company long, and so I was left kind of, in just an interesting situation. The person who I wanted to work for was no longer, didn't understand my role at that point. So it became a what's next at that stage in my life. Like, I moved down here, I bought a house, I was making South Florida home. And so I just had to sit down and have a talk with myself. Like, okay, Melissa, you have a law degree. You haven't really utilized it in a very long time. You want to do, what is your next step career-wise? And so it took some time for me to kind of just say, you know what, I don't know the answer. So I'm just going to pray about it. And my faith is important to me. So it's going to be the overarching theme in our conversation. And then lo and behold, they came to me to get my LLM in tax, which is a master's of law in taxation. Now, let me back up a little bit. When I was at Florida in law school, they had a very great tax program. And I contemplated staying another year to get my LLM in tax. But at that point, I was so tired of school, studying for the bar, I just work, earn money, live a life. And being young and short-sighted, I should have just stayed those 2 semesters and got the tax LLM. And then I would have had a specialized career in something I was really interested in. But you live and you learn. So I had the opportunity to apply for my LLM in tax, but the catch was I did not want to move to go to school. Like, it has to be a program where I can do it remotely. So part of my decision was if there was such a program. And sure enough, there was. And it was through Boston University. And so I applied, got accepted, loved every minute of it. And this was probably spring of 20, and I fell in love with estate planning. So I began to concentrate in that area and take as many classes as I could, because then I realized that this is something I want to do. This is really something I feel like I can really give value to people and make them understand the importance of it. And I feel like I'm helping people, whereas with some areas of law, you don't really feel like you're helping, you're just a part of the problem, but a litigious society. And so I fell in love with it, and I said, this is what I'm going to do. So here I am, second career, and with no experience in this area. So it's like, okay, let's see what opportunities are out there for me. And so I began to look into it and to see what type of offers I would get, some of my background, what I can bring to the table, my years of corporate experience, all of that has to have some value. Lo and behold, this was, I guess, spring 2020 when I was looking at graduating. And if you remember, that's when COVID hit us and the lockdowns came and the job hiring freezes came and positions that I was interviewing for, all of that just shut down. And so I said, okay, well, here I am about to graduate, second career, LLM in tax, want to do estate planning. And it's going to happen right now because no one's really hiring in this field. So I took some time, I prayed about it, I went on a fast, and I said, whatever door that you want me to walk through, open it. Whatever door you don't want me to walk through, close it. And this is just how I talk. This is how I talk to God. This is how I talk to Yahweh. Get closed doors. And the one door that was constantly open, and it was confirmed through multiple people, was to start my own practice. And so I was like, is this really what I'm supposed to do? Hang my own shingle? I'm like, okay, I do have a business background, I work, but this is all very new to me. This is a new area, not only career-wise, but where I live. I just moved to South Florida, haven't really networked a lot. I've been a student getting this degree, but I said, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. So from, I believe, April of 2020 until August of 2020, I instituted my firm. I got the firm up and running, and I officially opened August 4th, 2020, doing estate planning and tax. So that's how I got here. It was like a path that I did not plan for myself, but it was part of the plan.
No, that is awesome. That is awesome and inspiring. And if you guys hear any small lag in either one of us, we've switched the internet. We all have 5 bars. Sometimes the internet's going to do what it does. And we have to be thankful because 21 years ago, we could not have done this because Skype came out 20 years ago. But can you talk about, you were comfortable pursuing school and you didn't just go get a JD, then you got the LLM and then you got the MS and you have all these, other degrees. There's a law student right now or somebody about to go into maybe their last year of, maybe their bachelor's. How much more money, how much more experience, and has it been beneficial to get that LLM on top of that JG? Because people don't know until you get there. And it's like, how much money did that make me? And sometimes it's not the money. Sometimes it's who you meet on the journey there. So talk about that a little bit.
Right. Well, way back when I was in law school, oh, really? I've been practicing now for 20 years. So it was way back when. You didn't have what you have currently today, which is a lot of concurrent programs. So what that means is you can get your JD and you can also get another. So when I was at Florida, some of the common ones they had with the JD MBA concurrent program, or if you want a master's in real estate or something along those lines, but they didn't have the JD tax LLM. Now, most universities, they have that concurrent program. So if you're someone who's in law school, what I think is very essential is you want to come out specialized and not be a general practitioner, because that helps you market your skills. So by doing a concurrent program, you're working on your JD, and I think probably in your maybe your second year of law school, you can start taking those the tax curriculum. So when you graduate, you would graduate with a JD and an LLM. So you've just created your own brand that you're coming out of law school with a specialty in tax. You're in high demand and you're going to have a much better success in marketing and choosing where you want to work and what firm you want to work at. I wish something like that existed 20 years ago, because that would have definitely been a path I would have taken versus having to graduate and then stay another year for the tax program. You can do it all together. So when you graduate, you have that Juris Doctor and you have that master's in taxation. And that's just be well equipped to be successful and to pretty much command a great salary at any law firm.
And tell the people how important it is to graduate from an ABA approved school, because now school, like everybody's coming out with their own school. We have former presidents who created their own universities only to say they had nothing to do with it. They have no idea. They didn't know anybody. They just used my name. How important is it for the ABA? Because you also have schools who've been around for, 30, 40, 50 years saying, oh, we're approved here. We're accredited in this state. California is big for that. I don't know about Florida. We're accredited here, so you'll be able to practice law here, no problem. But how, with your experience, how important is that?
It's very important. I wouldn't advise anyone to attend a school that isn't accredited by the ABA. And I would go a step further. I would stay away from those accredited schools as well, because they do have a lot of issues with accreditation, and they just don't have the resources. And then you have to look at the bar passage rates and whether or not they have the resources and the skills and the staff to help you be successful. So for me, it was a pretty easy decision that Florida undergrad. I did apply to some other schools in the Southeast, in Georgia. I think I applied to Emory. I applied maybe to Tulane, but for the state of Florida, it was going to be UF. I couldn't even imagine going anywhere else. And it's number one law school in Florida, and it's been like that forever, and it'll always be the case. So very easy for me. Some people, they have higher ambitions. They'll probably want to apply to a T14 school, meaning the top 14 schools, or they'll want to apply for schools in the top 20, what have you. Whatever your LSAT score and your GPA will allow you to to apply. And with a good, you have to be realistic. Everybody wants to apply to Harvard, everyone wants to apply to Yale, but if you went to a regional school and you were middle of the pack, or you just have to be realistic. But definitely, you should only look at schools that are accredited by the ABA.
Especially here in Florida. And I asked you that question for somebody particular. Their name will be not said, but I said in Florida, from my research and limited Google knowledge, you have to go to an ABA school to take the Florida bar.
Exactly.
So that's that. And so you want to go, she says, to a top school. That's easy for somebody who went to school in Florida, then went to Boston University, so she can say that, right? But if you guys apply yourself, you can do all things.
Exactly.
Can you talk about maybe some of the ways, because life, it sounds like it was just so smooth and so good, but when creating your business, and if this was your first business, not just handling the legal side, but now I need to be, the entrepreneur mind needs to kick in. And we know
exactly
all lawyers and doctors know that they can run a business, and they know they can fly a plane too. That's a whole nother topic. But
yeah.
Talk about learning and, anything, with that process.
Sure. And that's a good topic, because, a lot of lawyers are horrible at managing people and businesses. That's just not a skill that you learn in law school. That's something that is either going to come with a lot of mistakes or special talents, and you can just jump in there. As for me, yeah, you mentioned earlier I had an MS. I did get a master's degree in management after law school. So I had some basic building blocks, but also when I worked in corporate America, that's the one good thing about the former company. It's not the only good thing, but about corporate America, they give you a lot of training. They give you a lot of skills. And the thing that I utilized when I was at my former company, I tried to take as many management related, people leadership, whatever I could to edify myself, because I do notice when you see someone who's gone through and someone who hasn't, usually that person who's gone through corporate America, they're a little more refined. And so I think that professionalism certainly helped me when it was time for me to start my business. So I knew what I needed to do from the legal standpoint. And like I said, I had some basic building blocks from the business side. Of course, I knew I needed a business plan. I knew I needed, of course, marketing, and I would spend hours each day over that period of time, just going through my plan, my goals, my objectives, my timeline. And once I completed something, I would check it off. But because of that working knowledge I had from my formal life, it was a little easier for me, and I didn't miss a beat. And one of the good things about one of the good thing about the Florida bar, they have a lot of resources and tools for lawyers who want to start their own firm. And so I found a checklist that they offered, and it really was life-changing. And that checklist pretty much helped me implement everything I needed for the very specific things that you need to practice law. And so that kept me on task as well. So there are a lot of great resources that the Florida bar has for lawyers, especially for those who want to start their own firm. I believe it's through Dual, but it's on the Florida bar's website. So that checklist was definitely a lifesaver, and that really assisted me greatly.
Now, you had talked about the professionalism, and before we started, I'm going to rephrase how I said it, but people can look at your life and say, okay, you very professional, very, you can tell corporate, but we're in a trend in this reset where what was right, it seemed to be wrong, and wrong, it seemed to be right.
Right.
And,
yeah.
And people thought that the millennials were the ones who changed things, but right after them, all chaos. Go to Google's campus. It's no suits. It's all cut off shorts, people coming out of bed. You'd be surprised. And I've shocked people when we lived in Seattle. Like, what is this? Is Google? You know, and it's not that people don't have a button-up shirt, but it might have, you know, Che Guevara on it or something. It's a very different time. How do you feel about that? Because you are like, you know, when you said Claire Huxtable, I said, that is it. That is it, you know. But
Right.
talk about that reset and, you know, the reset and the changes you're seeing. And do you feel pressured at all for you to come out and start doing TikTok dances as a lawyer just to get the attention and clients of people?
Those are some great questions. And I had this conversation with a marketing rep. It's like, you will not see me doing TikTok. What is it? TikTok videos. I don't even, I can't even imagine if anyone would seriously. And that's just not, I feel like I don't have to change who I am, the core of who I am. And my target audience, target client, they may not be on TikTok. So I have to market towards my target audience, and they will get what I bring to the table as far as my professionalism. But yeah, with Gen Z, my son is 20 years old. So I see the different changes. However, I'm raising him with a Gen X mindset, and you know, and all that entails. So although the outside may change, you know, I want him still to be presentable and to his audience, and to know how you should show up, and you should show up dressed appropriately, because at the end of the day, it's about the audience that you're trying to reach. Now, if your audience is laid back and they don't want someone stuffy to approach them or get their business, then that's understandable. But when I think of my practice and my clients and assets that I'm dealing with, yeah, they're going to have some concerns if I show up in a t-shirt and and some cutoffs. They won't take me seriously. And that's because most of the clients I deal with, they are in that boomer generation. The younger clients and Gen Xers, millennials, some, especially if they're parents, they want to get their estate in place, and then with entrepreneurs starting their businesses. But the bulk of the estate plans that I handle, we're talking 60, 65 up. So they have a certain mindset. They expect how their lawyer to appear. Now, what I am doing, and what I do appreciate with the reset with COVID, you know, you made mention to it earlier, as far as, you know, the remote communications, it has made practicing law, I think, very accessible. For example, I don't feel chained to an office. I think office space, you really have to really weigh that. Like I said, with my clients, because of COVID, even though I'm so comfortable with Zoom consultations, Zoom meetings, contacting me through my portal, doing everything remotely. They don't need to eyeball me, and no one really likes to come to a law office anyway, so you can't you can't blame them. But what that allowed me to do is to say, you know what, it's time to bring the practice of law to the 21st century. And I've seen a lot of lawyers take this step where they are moving more towards virtual lawyering. And what that allows you to do is to expand your service region. So whereas before, you know, right now, I still have an office space in Fort Lauderdale, but most of my clients are coming from the state, just throughout the state, because I'm from North Florida, I have friends throughout the state. So I don't have to limit myself to just marketing to South Florida residents or Broward or Palm Beach County or Dade or what have you. So it's actually opened up more opportunity. So my goal now is to move more in that virtual space and become a Florida estate planning attorney, become a Florida business law attorney, and not just be stuck in the region. So I do appreciate that. But if I won't make any TikTok videos, that's just not going to happen. I want to make videos because I know that social media, you get more hits. However, it just has to be the content that's relevant. And so that's something I'm still working through, but I will move to more video, social media marketing. It just won't be on TikTok. You won't see me dancing. You won't see background music, because it's just not me. I have to be genuine. I have to be organic, and that's just not me. And it just would feel weird if I did that.
I got you. And this is when the real test comes. This is when Spotify, Instagram, TikTok comes with a big bag and says, "Are you sure?" You know how that's how it usually goes. Oh, you won't? Well, yeah, okay. We'll show you. With the estate
Mhm.
planning, you talk about clientele being typically older because they're more seasoned, they have more money
Correct.
typically, but we are seeing, millionaires being made in
Yeah.
a day with online. Are you seeing any uptick with younger people because they are making more money, some of them, than their fathers, parents,
Mhm.
all combined? And, as a consultant and a business manager and whatever other title they put on me, I'm not seeing the savings. I'm not seeing the planning. I'm seeing
Right.
people, make, I won't even say the amounts of money because it'll sound like, stop the cap, but people are making money and they're blowing it, taking a trip to Tahiti, and bringing all their friends so they can Instagram it. And, some of them are even on services, believe it or not. Uh-oh,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
saying too much, but do you see any uptick of younger people, even if they're not influencers, if they're whatever they're doing, ball players? We know they mostly
I get
retire broke.
absolutely. And, a friend of mine, he makes a good point. He's a lot of people, they just don't know how to manage money. That's just not something that's taught. It's not something that's taught in school. So when you see this type of wealth being created, a lot of it is being blown on things that they're going to regret spending their money on. Right now, I don't see that. I think, like most people, really, they know that an estate plan is something that they need and they should probably get it, but they just put it off, or they feel like, oh, I don't need that now. Like, you don't know when something's going to happen. We don't know when our last day, our last minute, our last second. That type of wealth creation, that's when you're talking about business succession planning, which goes hand in hand with estate planning. Like, what's going to happen to your business? You want that tied up in probate. So these are questions that they need to get their house in order, especially entrepreneurs creating that type of wealth, having that opportunity to create that type of wealth. You want your in place if something happens to you. And then, especially on the estate planning side, make sure that your family, your loved ones, they're taken care of. But no, I don't see an uptick. I don't think they really understand the necessity of it at this point in their life.
Okay, and that's unfortunate, especially for our Black and brown community, because it's like the same old story: get a bag, blow a bag, and maybe it will take somebody like yourself not to put more pressure or more duties on you, but to write a book on it, to call people out on your own podcast, and you get
Mhm.
to doing that, because your whole journey is a whole movie, and
Right.
those stories need to be told. Do you have any plans to do do you do public speaking, writing a book, pamphlets, courses, anything like that?
These are actually things that I've thought about. I thought about a podcast, still weighing it. I'm not really sure. Just trying to figure out what's the best way to get information out there. So recently, the video, amplification has been brought to my attention. That's just like a great way to use um, videos on social media. It's like a networking and just getting the information out that you want, and just what's relevant and what's going to be thought provoking. So a podcast definitely is something I could consider. I think this information is very, very relevant. I think the latest stat I saw was maybe 1 in 3 Americans, or was it 1 in 3 Americans have a will. However, there was something about because of with inflation being out of control, more people are realizing, for some reason, I don't know the correlation, that they should probably get an estate. I don't know the correlation between that and inflation, but I thought that was an interesting figure. So I think just getting it out there in front of people and just making them understand the why. And then when you look at, I mentioned that most of my clients, they have numerous assets. However, estate plan just for the well off or the wealthy. It's for everybody, because you don't want your loved ones to have to deal with a probate system, having to hire an attorney to get access to your bank accounts or whatever it is. That's not something that everybody should avoid at all costs. And especially if you have young children and if something happens to you and your spouse at the same time, you want to make sure guardians are in place. If they're not in place, then it's going to be left to a court to decide what happens to the kids. So just getting this information out there so people can understand the importance of it. Because a lot of people, until it happens to them, they've probated something they've never even had to worry about. And they would say, oh yeah, my parents died and I can't get access to their bank account. I was like, yeah, unless you were on the account, or if there was a pay on death designation, it has to be, they're going to freeze the assets and you have to change the beneficiaries. And you got to hire an attorney and go through the probate system. And maybe in a couple of years, you'll get access to that money or whatever it is. So these are things people don't really even think about. And so unfortunately, they're in that situation. So I need to try and find the best avenues possible to get that information out to people, because my goal is probate avoidance. No one should have to go through that. I mean, no, I don't care if you have $5 in the bank. That's not something that you should be subject to.
Can you tell them maybe an average cost, that because that sometimes scares a certain community, to know that you pay now or you pay a lot more later?
Yes, absolutely. And that's the whole point. It's like you pay now to get your estate plan, your will, your trust in order. You're going to pay a lot more later. Yeah, like for a range of where an estate plan could possibly fall, or versus probate. Is that the question? I just want to make sure I understood.
What is a community give back that you are doing or that you would like to do in the future?
Sure. Well, since I moved down here, I've partnered with Broward County Mission, the Rescue Mission, as well as Miami-Dade Rescue Mission. They're one and the same. So I do a lot of partnerships with them, and I actually work with leaders in that organization to fight homelessness, and also to help women who have left domestic violence situations and they have nowhere to live, and it gives them skills and gives them a place to live, of course, and shelter for their kids, and also prepare them to enter the workplace, and just giving in that way, whether it's clothing, luggage, whatever it is, monies, just to help them to reset their lives. So that's what I'm currently doing. And then of course we met at the wine tasting for Talented Team. So my hope for the future is to mentor the individuals, the teams in that group, and share a lot about what I do and what I've done and where I've come from, and so they can see what the possibilities are. Because life wasn't handed to me on a silver platter. I had a plan. I had the motivation, and I'm successful, but it's possible. You don't have to have a silver platter or a cookie cutter background to get where you want to go.
I love it. So you weren't Sandra or Denise.
No. But I knew I was going to be Claire.
You knew you were going to be Claire. And that's, that's all you can control sometimes, right? So you guys,
Absolutely.
because Zoom is zooming, I want you guys to be on the lookout. Look in the description, because when her podcast comes out, you can go bug her and say, well, you talked about it over here. Now we're ready for it. Make sure, if you do nothing else, you share this game with somebody, you guys. It will change their life. Y'all be blessed.
Hi everyone. Have you ever been curious about visiting Africa? Which African country were you interested in? Kenya, Nigeria, Uganda, South Africa, Ethiopia? Which country are you interested in? My good friend, Kellen Cash Coleman, came up with a course called My First Trip to Africa that'll guide you through this process. It's only $20, and in this course you'll learn about passports, visas, vaccinations that you need before you go there, as well as a budget, how much the trip is going to cost. He also talks about what you should pack, what you should take with you, how you should travel on a budget. Did you know that $100 is worth 1,000 South African rand and over 10,000 Kenyan shillings? So imagine what you can do with $100 back home. I say back home because I'm from Sudan, I'm African, I already know how it's like. I know that, you know, when you convert Canadian and American money, it goes a long way when you're traveling across Africa. So if you're curious, if Africa is a place that you've always wanted to go, always wanted to move there, Kellen Cash is the person to ask. Check out the course. There's a little preview you can listen to before you actually purchase it. If you're interested in this course, visit www.diversifiedgame.com. Don't miss out.